thing, man. You know, my thing is, I'm really getting my head into chess.
I'm into finding myself.
That's the kind of conversation we're having.
You're right. Yeah.
When they're having conversations like,
that.
let's go to the hotel and look at a movie and come out.
Yeah.
You know, we don't say, when we get to the hotel, oh, the food was good. No, the cuisine is nice. Oh, the dessert was wonderful. Look, they have coffee. Let's do this again. Sure, okay. Say hello to the family for me. Yeah, and maybe next week I'll talk to you about that deal. We don't have conversation. What we have is, let's go to the hotel. Well, man, hotels. A lot of waste, man. You know, why don't we go to some place that's a little heavier on my scene so I can, you know, get down with some coffee, because I'm not really happy in hotels. Oh no, why aren't you happy in hotels? Very depressing, man. Yeah.
Because they changed the front of the building, you know, and moved out of a $400 or $500 a month apartment because they changed the decor in the front of the building. Yeah, far out.
These things not happening in Europe, man. You just see the Europeans go through the depression. You can't believe I was over in England when the Europeans really were and I got to tell you, that the inflation in London is so out of sight, man. I mean, we don't know what inflation is. Inflation, they got problems. But when you meet the England's people, man, it's as if they had no problem at all. Everyone's calm. There's no discussion about inflation. They talk about it as if it's a passing number. And it's cool. Everyone's like that, man. But here...
You say the price of gas and you got a 3-hour conversation.
One guy in Beverly Hills couldn't get any gas for his car, went back in the house and shot himself.
Oh my God. I don't think I want to go there. You've been out there quite often.
He shot his car. Well, shot another driver.
We got to interview you. You know that? You're one of the most unusual people I've ever seen.
You talking to her about that?
Was dressed to look that horrendous, to resemble the prison in Arkansas. And then after the film was over, the studio rebuilt the look of the interior of the prison, so it doesn't look as grimy as it appears on screen.
It does not. Right? But they still have that community room where everyone sleeps. One large room.
That was an empty prison. That's probably one of the only. We found that prison empty.
Oh, I see.
That's an empty prison. Didn't have any inmate society there when we came. It was empty. And we had to bring in all those people extras. There's no one in that prison.
No one.
As that prison is now closed and empty. I think there's a electronic company that manufactures batteries or tubes down in the bottom of the basement, taking over part of the prison. It's used for other variant purposes other than incarcerating people.
I see. Okay.
I was speaking recently to David Brown of Brown Zanuck, who's with a studio we won't name, and he was saying that 20th Century Fox once owned it, and I think he has the rights to the Confessions of Nat Turner, Starron's book. And at the time they were trying to produce it, there was a big outcry against it. And we were discussing whether or not the atmosphere was better now for a production such as that on that particular script. What do you think about that now?
Wow, this guy, out of a clear blue sky, excuse me.
Go ahead.
What do I think about it?
Do you think that the atmosphere now would be better to produce that script?
No, I don't think this is the time for that picture. Because that picture just brings back racial conflicts and incendiary situations and thoughts and ideas and feelings about things that I think should be best left quiet. I think we need more entertainment on the screen and not any more polarization than we want to get into. I would not want to be a part of a Confessions of Nat Turner. You know, I wouldn't. I don't think they should do it.
Well, on the other hand, you know that one of the outcries is that we do not have enough real history. We don't have enough realism of in the past, the antebellum thing.
Who is doing this outcrying?
Me for one, and who else?
No, I want to know who is doing the outcrying. You know, I don't hear this outcry that you're talking about.
Well, you say you're not on the scene either, but the outcry is from community groups.
What community groups?
Well, you want me to name names? There are many groups within Chicago land.
Who are outcrying?
Theater groups who are
Nat Turner. Confessions.
Not for Confessions of Nat Turner, but for more realistic productions, more true productions. For instance, we were discussing roots at a seminar recently, and my particular outcome was that Roots, while it was a good production, was about upper middle class slaves. It really didn't show what was really happening at the time. Now, on the other hand, Nat Turner, not advocating it, but exploring it, Nat Turner really was more realistic in terms of the treatment. Now, why I say it should be done is because that Roots gave you a sanitized version, and it still raised the consciousness of many people. Said, did you have to go through that? But with a Nat Turner, a realistic Nat Turner type thing, it would raise the consciousness even more. And it might polarize, but on the other hand, it might educate some people to really know what it is, because even our youngsters don't really have any concept of what it was.
Well, I don't know anything about Nat Turner, and Nat Turner is not about me, and what he went through is not about my roots. Roots is not about my roots. I don't know anything about that period in history, nor does anyone in my family. And so I would have to look at it from an objective level in terms of Yaphet Kotto, because slavery was not a thing that beset my ancestors. My ancestors don't come from this country. My people don't come from this country. Whether or not that should be done, I would have to judge it from the material, the script, because I think what we're talking about, what you're asking me, is that should a movie be used for the tendency of some kind of political or social statement? And that has never been the intentions of movie makers, or not my intention as a movie maker, to make anything because it will educate or it will bring about social this or political that. That's not my position. My position as an artist has always been to do products that were artistically sound and that brought a certain amount of dignity to the character and expressed a creative point of view. Creativity is not my point of view. Now, there are other people who have to make films for their own desires. Money, politics, social statements, religious feelings, that's their business. But my business has always been to make pictures that I felt to have some artistic and creative merit that had to do with human emotions and dealings rather than any sort of iconoclastic or symbolic stand.
Now, I was also into a discussion about the way that the distribution of films is handled. As a producer, do you think that blind bidding, are you familiar with blind bidding system? Do you think that blind bidding hurts the independence or helps the independence?
Well, there is no such thing as not helping independent, as we have an independent industry. I mean, everybody's independent, and the blind bidding is almost forced on anyone. It's business, and I don't see where it hurts or helps. I think it's something that everyone has to live with. It's according to the situation, and who's there first.
And the last question is, what are you going to do next?
Smiles. I haven't made the decision. I don't know. I don't know what I'm going to do next. You're a funny guy. I wish what I was going to do next was as cheerful and glorious as the smile on your face.
No, I mean, you're a fantastic actor, and this is not just for camera. You're a fantastic actor. I remember following you. The first time I ever saw you work was in New York, following James Earl Jones in The Great White Hope.
Really?
That's the first time I ever saw you work, and it fascinated because of the interpretation that you gave as opposed to Jim Jones. He did almost a paranoid interpretation, and yours was controlled anger. And it fascinated me, the two. In fact, that was an education, because the two different roles, I mean, it was the same role played by two different people in different ways, but it still was effective. So that's why I said, what are you going to do next, so I can save up my $4 and go see you?
Well, I really haven't made a decision. That's what I'm going to do. There are a few things that are being offered, But it's hard for an actor to know. Your feelings change every day. I mean, next week, it's all intuitive and instinct. That has to be it. I wouldn't want to get to the point where making a mental, intelligent decision that this is where we should go, or a financial one. You know, this is where we should go. I don't know. I sort of let the situation and time sort of blend out to where I'm going to go in my life.
Then you're not planning to do your production, reactivate your production company again.
It's never
I mean,
stopped.
put it to work, you know.
Well, it has been working. You know, it's never stopped working since 1973 or 4. I have people who are involved in other aspects of business rather than just a production company is just not a company that just makes movies or sits around talking about movies. Production company is used to function in business, and it has other business things that it does and carries on all around the country and now lately all around the world. So it's been always active.
Thank you.
See, this shows that married couples can work in harmony together.
Should we leave out here? That babe of the head. Yes, I'm ready. Okay. Mr. Kotto, I'm most grateful to you for this interview.
Thank you.
Thank you. Today we're interviewing Mr. Richard Durham. Mr. Durham is a writer. He's a producer. We're delighted to be here. Mr. Durham?
How are you?
Fine, thank you. I understand that the Schomburg Library is interested in a series of radio shows that you did for NBC in the 50s called Destination Freedom.
Yeah, Destination Freedom in the early 50s, we developed a dramatic show called Destination Freedom, which was dramatizing the black experience. Recently, the Schomburg collection, through association with Dr. Fred McDonald, has acquired the entire collection of Destination Freedom dramatization, which amounts to some 97 or 99 dramatic scripts based upon the black experience in that period. Why, in discussing it with the curators of the Schomburg over the phone, they emphasized the fact that they considered it very important because at that period was a period through which the wind was not at the back of those struggling for equal rights and civil rights. It was going against the grain at the time because, as you know, after the World War, the Second World War, there was this backlash against the black. During the war, of course, there was a struggle for equal treatment within the services itself. But after that, there was a period in which many black soldiers, many black seamen, and many black workers were thrown out of jobs as the whites came back. It was a period of tremendous transitional period. As some put it, prior to that, the main characterizations of blacks on the air had been those of sort of like Mantan Moreland. Amos and Andy was the top show for a long period in radio. The Schomburg collection was interested in this particular series because we moved in another direction altogether at a period when the climate was not right for it. And we survived, I think particularly because we had excellent artists. From among the ranks of the blacks, there were innumerable talents that could depict a realistic dramatization of the black experience. And that was Destination Freedom, which fortunately we were able to maintain for quite a period. This is the collection which the Schomburg people now are going to rebroadcast so that the picture of the period can be seen through these dramatizations.
Was there a great deal of opposition to the show when it came on?
In the beginning of there was fear and trepidation, particularly among the administrative officials, Was one fortunate thing. The Chicago Defender in the initial stages footed the bill that is paid for it. Because it was a full-scale dramatic show in terms of the, in radio terms. In the beginning, it required actual written music in the initial part. The bill was, the Defender considered fairly heavy. And after the initial part, the Defender couldn't stand the billing. However, we had picked up a very unexpected audience. The show was getting acclaim. The audience level, as tested by the various Nielsen rating, was the highest for any show on Sunday. And that included such old shows as Eternal Light and things like that. We had the top. So the station bought the show. And the reaction that they had expected at first, or that they feared, because in the beginning they were very careful about the scripts. That is, they were constantly admonishing the writers and even the actors to tone things down. However, I went on the theory that if we follow the laws of drama, if the dramatization is sufficiently intriguing, suspenseful, the audience will hold. That you need not give in to certain propaganda stereotypes that actually are unnatural for this type of story. For instance, the story of Ida B. Wells. Take that for instance. Ida B. Wells was the black woman who, during the time she was editing her newspaper, she carried 2 guns. In fact, 4 guns, 2 other guns in the desk drawer. And her daughter, Miss Duster, was still living at the time and was still collected amounts of material on her, which was tremendously exciting. So we dramatized the story of Ida B. Wells as the type of woman that she was, as a woman of vast determination, but also vast love for her people, starting with her family, and with demonstrated willingness to fight to the death for what she knew was correct. This was one of the turning points in the Destination Freedom series, because they objected to the story itself because she fought against segregation, and the manner in which she fought against it, with energy and with self-assertiveness and with a drive. In fact, the Ida B. Wells story, I'm going to do it for a movie sometimes later. I've already gotten the agreement from the heirs of Ida B. Wells for the purpose. It's one of the great dramatic stories of America, and we didn't compromise as much as as it was previously done in many dramatizations, because the audience moved with us. We could prove by the letters and the calls that a vast number of white as well as the black were supporting the program, and controversial in some cases, but this established a new approach, as the Schomburg people say, a new approach in the dramatization of blacks, or opened up the possibility of what could be said. And that was, in that period, was what we tried to do.
I understand that you are involved with Muhammad Ali.
Yes, Muhammad Ali is seen by these books. We, during a period, over a period of years, I was closely associated with Muhammad Ali, even now. I met him through the fact that for a period I had established for the Honorable Elijah Muhammad had come to me to establish a newspaper. In the early period, we established the newspaper Muhammad Speaks. I was the editor-in-chief for the initial period of time. And during that period, Muhammad Ali came upon the scene. We became close friends, and as any writer could see, this man was destined to become one of the most, obviously one of the greatest boxers because of his skill, but because he had a special type of personality and an inner drive of his own, which he had created before he became, before he entered into the religious sphere. He had that peculiar drive and that peculiar yearning to become something to his people. As he would put it, Muhammad Ali wanted to be something special to his people. He would put it sometimes bluntly, I want to be somebody my people can use for their advantage.
Yes. Yes.
This is was the ideology that he had before he even began. Then, of course, when he became a part of the religious.
Okay. Can you hold?
Give me the signal. No. One of the interesting things about the Muhammad Ali story, in which took a number of years because we were looking for a climax. We didn't want to just come out with a flat thing. And the climax that he wanted was his return to victory, his return to winning. When the book was finished, the first editor, and the one who was the first editor of all of my scripts, was my wife, Clarice, who was an excellent English scholar, one of the sharpest that I'd met. In fact, sharper than some of those at Random House, which is the publisher of this book, and caught many of many items in which helped to bring it to fore. We were very successful overseas. This is why we have so many editions which are in French and German. I think this is this was French and Japanese, in Malay, in Dutch, because the sales, particularly strangely enough, the country that paid the most for the book, other than America, was Germany. Germany bid something like $300,000. France, I think, bid something like $100,000. England, I think, bid something like $90,000. But the English bid, of course, in terms of the book is important because in England you don't have to pay additional money for the translator, and so what they bid is important. The Japanese bid $40,000. And later increase. At the foreign market, the contract with the publisher, usually on the foreign market, is a very good one for the writer. That is, they will usually give the writer 80 to 90% of the foreign market, mainly because they don't expect much out of the foreign market. It's just, it was a standard contract, but in this case, the standard contract worked to our benefit, because Muhammad Ali was an item which was very popular in the foreign market and did exceptionally well in Italy, for instance, but surprisingly well, and for a reason I can't quite account for, in Germany. It was the bestseller in Germany for many, many, many months. And of course, next to that was the book published by Granada Press in England, which was very good. But I have to always think and congratulate Clarice, because she was the harshest editor that I have, and the one who gives it the most thorough going over after the book was even in the form of the proofs. As is well known, the editing of the book is very important. In fact, Missioner is published by the same publishing house, Random House, as I am. And we had signed for to give a contract which required giving of them first preference on all future books. But as the editors at Random House explained to me, the tremendous amount of work they have to do on Missioner or Roth or whomever comes there.
How many books have you done so far?
Well, this is the first one in this with a established publisher. I've done other things with smaller publishers, but this is the first one with an official established publisher such as a Random House. Our next book, however, I plan to come out through Doubleday, primarily because Doubleday seems to have quite a distribution apparatus superior to most of the publishers.
Is it? Oh, I was going to say I had an advantage as an editor because I had known you so long and so intimately, and I knew what you were trying to get across. So
Well, that helps.
Yes,
others don't have.
That helps in doing any particular work such as this. Muhammad Ali is I think should be here in about 2 weeks, in which I want your company to be the one to interview him, and I think he will be delighted knowing that you have already. It's for such an important purpose. This organization that you have is a unique one, and I think that the people in America are very fortunate that a young woman took this occasion to, and the kind of a work it requires to bring this history to the country and to the world. It's a very important job that you're doing, and I'm sure that Muhammad Ali will be delighted to cooperate with you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I want to ask Mrs. Durham about the involvement with Destination Freedom.
Oh, I guess that was back during the time when our son was born, and I was home. Ordinarily, I have had my own career in early childhood education, but I was at home with the baby and able to type and help with research and do all the things that were necessary to get Destination Freedom on the air. And I can remember many deadline days. Dick's running out of the door, and I'm handing him the last sheet of the script to take with him. So it was an exciting period
How old
for
is the
school.
baby now?
The baby now is 31 years old.
And what's his name?
Oh, he's Mark. Mark is a musician. He has a child of his own now who is a year old.
Did you find anything unusual about the series Destination Freedom? What did you really feel about it at that time?
A great deal of pride, and I learned a lot about people that I had heard of, but never knew the details of their lives. And I learned that. And working with children, I've always known how important it is for people to know what their backgrounds are so that they can begin to feel a sense of pride,
Yes.
and to also feel that they can achieve. And I think they gain this by learning that some of their ancestors, some of the people who are like them, have made such tremendous contributions.
In the 1980s, do you feel that this series could go over again, perhaps as a telecast?
I think there's a great need for it. You're surprised when you hear of young people who, someone said the other day, who've never heard of Joe Louis. And he was, a towering figure and an important figure. So I think there's a need to reintroduce people, and to never let them die out. And I think a series like Destination Freedom could be very valuable.
Mr.
No.
Durham, would you consider writing for television?
Well, certainly, I think that I have done television writing, of course. I think the last series that I did for television was one called Bird of the Iron Feather.
Yes.
And I have done other things for television, and I plan to do some dramatizations for television, certainly in the latter part of 1980. But I want to say one thing about the period in which I started, because this is the element that had been missing in dramatization of the black experience, missing because of the opposition from perhaps the producers, perhaps some of the writers. Generally speaking, I noticed that your organization, one of the things that it started, that kicked it off, was this black exploitation situation of black movies, which were not germane to the life of the people. The equation that was missing in the dramatization of black, which is still missing. Now, in the laws of drama, it requires that if you want to have your hero identifiable, or one in which you want the empathy of the audience to come to your hero, there are certain laws and there are certain tactics and there are certain things that you have to do in order to get that. In other words, drama or script is pretty much like building a house. If you want the foundation to be strong, you must make sure of certain conditions. If you want the windows to be such that the air won't get in, there are certain things. Well, in the law and drama, there are certain things that you have to do if you want the audience to identify with your hero. Generally, what equation had been missing with the dramatization done by certain white writers, and perhaps it wasn't even their fault, but the thing that I resented most, because some of those, I've been in classes with them, and we know what you do with a character in order to make the audience love him. We know what to do with that. It's not an accident. Of course, it couldn't be an accident. It's a trade. You know what to do. If I was doing Ann Blair, I would know how to do her so that the people saw what a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful person she was and how they would love to be like her and to identify with her. There's certain things you have to put in. In the dramatization of blacks, the thing that I really most is they would extract those equations, which would allow